Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2005 movie titled Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. The film begins with Mr. John Smith and Mrs. Jane Smith sitting in a couples therapy session, both confidently rating their happiness as an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. However, the atmosphere is thick with passive-aggressive tension, revealing an underlying discord that neither seems willing to address. As they dodge questions about their romantic life, the therapist decides to steer the conversation to their initial meeting. Their story takes us back 5 or 6 years to Colombia, a time when the police were on the lookout for an American traveler suspected of wrongdoing. John recalls being at a bar when he noticed Jane fleeing from officers who were pursuing her. Without a second thought, he intervened, claiming that they were together. This spontaneous act of bravery led them to spend the night reveling in each other's company and indulging in uninhibited dancing. The following morning, Jane presumed their encounter was merely a fleeting one-night stand. To her surprise, John returned with breakfast, a gesture that sparked the beginning of their relationship. They soon found themselves at a local fair, where John's competitive spirit shone through as he showcased his shooting skills. Not to be outdone, Jane matched him shot for shot, attributing her success to beginner's luck. Their connection deepened rapidly, and soon they were officially dating. John confided in his friend Eddie about Jane's impressive career in IT, where she ran her own successful firm. Eddie cautioned him about moving too quickly, but John was unwavering in his feelings, declaring that he was in love. Meanwhile, Jane viewed John as a prosperous contractor in the construction industry. Despite her friend Jasmine's skepticism, the couple had already begun making plans for their future together. Fast forward 6 years, and John and Jane are now married, residing in a beautiful suburban home. While they maintain a semblance of harmony, an undercurrent of competition lingers between them, evident in their attempts to leave for work simultaneously. That evening, John returns home to find Jane glaring at him with disapproval. He adjusts his wedding ring and notices a lipstick mark on his collar before entering the house, where they exchange polite smiles and greetings. Unbeknownst to each other, both possess remarkable talents. John effortlessly sinks a hoop without looking while Jane skillfully balances on a chair, only stopping when he walks in. Later that night, John witnesses Jane receiving a phone call before hurriedly dressing. She explains that she must attend to a crash server downtown and leaves just as he departs for the night. Jane arrives at a hotel where armed men escort her to a room. A man emerges with a smile, and she sheds her coat to reveal a dominatrix outfit, playfully asking if he is ready for some fun. Meanwhile, John finds himself at a bar, stumbling drunkenly into a back room in search of the bathroom. There, he encounters a poker game with one empty chair. Initially chased away by the players, he flashes a roll of cash, prompting them to invite him to join in their revelry. Just then, the missing player returns, only for John to shoot him dead without hesitation before swiftly eliminating the others in the room. Back in the hotel room, Jane has tied up her captive, who believes he is about to enjoy an exciting evening. In a shocking twist, she snaps his neck, killing him instantly. She quickly dresses before his guards can react and escapes using a grapple concealed in her handbag, floating gracefully to the ground and hailing a cab. Upon returning home, she narrowly avoids detection by John and manages to change clothes just in time. The following day, John heads to his tool shed, revealing a hidden underground safe house stocked with weapons and cash, a stark contrast to the life he presents on the surface. After John leaves, Jane springs out of bed, revealing a hidden secret concealed within the oven. She retrieves both a knife and a gun, her expression resolute. Meanwhile, John arrives at his construction company, which serves as a facade for a contract killing operation where Eddie is his partner. Upon checking in with his employers, John receives a contract to eliminate ADI, a prisoner known as the Tank, before he can be transferred to another facility. As Jane makes her way to her downtown office, she steps into a space dedicated entirely to her own contract killing firm. There, she learns about the contract on the Tank's life, and her employer urges her to act quickly to secure the kill before their competitors can intervene. Jasmine briefs her on the specifics of the assignment. Arriving at the designated location, Jane meticulously sets up sensors and mines along the road, preparing to ambush her target. She soon spots a car racing through the desert, blasting music, a vehicle that inadvertently triggers one of her sensors, activating the mines. To her shock, it turns out to be John, who pulls up to take care of the target. He jumps out of his car with a rocket launcher in hand. Recognizing the weapon, Jane instinctively grabs her rifle and fires at him. John quickly recovers and retaliates with his launcher. But the ensuing chaos causes the mines to detonate prematurely, allowing the tank to escape. In the aftermath, John extracts a bullet from his vest and retrieves a charred laptop from the explosion, catching sight of someone riding away on a bike. Later, John meets with Eddie, sharing his encounter with the professional assassin who shot him. Meanwhile, Jane returns to her office in a fury, demanding to know the identity of her assailant. Her employer insists that she track down the attacker and eliminate him, prompting Jane to instruct her team to begin their search. John takes the burnt laptop to a tech expert who manages to recover some details, including a billing address that he recognizes. Intrigued and apprehensive, he heads to the location to stake it out. Upon checking the name associated with the address, he is stunned to discover that it belongs to his wife. Meanwhile, upstairs in her office, Jane reviews footage of the man who shot her. As she watches closely, she notices something familiar. When he shakes his leg while peeing, it's an unmistakable gesture that only one man she knows makes. Realizing the connection, John races home but approaches cautiously. He sneaks around and enters the house only to find no sign of Jane, until she suddenly appears out of nowhere. The two begin sizing each other up in silence before heading to the dinner table. John discreetly hides a dinner knife in his jacket, uncertain of what might unfold. As Jane reaches for a knife to carve the pot roast, John offers to assist her and takes over the task. Nervous yet composed, he purposely drops a wine bottle. Jane catches it but then fumbles it. They both excuse themselves under the pretense of fetching cleaning supplies. However, John seizes this opportunity to retrieve his gun and calls for Jane, only to see her speed off in her car. He begins sprinting through neighboring yards in an attempt to intercept her when he accidentally discharges his weapon.
How could I be so stupid?
Narrowly missing her. In an effort to explain himself, John is met with an unexpected turn when Jane hits him with her car, sending him sprawling onto its roof. She quickly exits the vehicle before it crashes into some bushes. In disbelief over the entire revelation, John rushes to see Eddie. Eddie speculates that Jane may have known all along about John's true nature and was deliberately planted into his life. Meanwhile, Jane confers with Jasmine in her office about their next steps. Jasmine concludes that Jane doesn't genuinely love John. Once they eliminate him, she will be free and unburdened. The following day, Jane and her team arrived at John's house, ready to conduct a thorough search. As they rifled through his belongings, tearing apart the place, Jane attempted to mask her discomfort at the sight of her personal items being tossed aside. Meanwhile, John approached the scene, using his neighbor as an unwitting shield and potential witness should he encounter Jane. He slipped into his secret room, only to discover that Jane had already pilfered his stash of weapons and cash. While Jane and her team combed the city for John, they received an alarming notification. He had breached their building. Without hesitation, Jane issued commands for them to erase their digital footprints and set up grappling lines to escape to a nearby structure. Just as John rushed in, he caught sight of Jane swinging across the rooftop, and they exchanged heated insults before making their respective exits. Back at Eddie's place, John sifted through charred files from the office and stumbled upon a clue that hinted at Jane's location. He quickly made his way to a building under construction. When he entered the elevator, it suddenly halted, and he heard Jane's voice echoing through the shaft. She warned him to leave town or she would drop the elevator with him inside. John called her bluff, catching her off guard, but one of Jane's associates detonated an explosive, sending the elevator crashing to the ground. Concerned about the outcome, Jane stepped out of a nearby van to investigate. To her surprise, John was unharmed. He had managed to find refuge in another elevator. Feeling betrayed by his wife's attempt on his life, later that evening, Jane sat at a dinner table, tears streaming down her face when John unexpectedly arrived and took a seat across from her. Both secretly aimed guns at each other while trying to unravel the complexities of their relationship. In a moment of vulnerability, John invited her to dance, and they began the slow process of disarming each other emotionally and physically. They grappled with the painful realization that their marriage might have been built on deception, each questioning who had been the true cover. As tension mounted, Jane abruptly left for upstairs and triggered an explosion, using the ensuing chaos to make her escape. Outside, John heard a ticking sound coming from his jacket. He quickly removed it just before it detonated. In a desperate bid for safety, he stole a car and raced back home, calling Jane along the way to confess that he had loved her from the moment they met. Yet, she remained skeptical, reminding him that he had merely been a mark, just business. Upon reaching home, Jane rammed John's car before darting inside. Determined to confront her, John sneaked through his neighbor's house and spotted Jane armed with a rifle. He managed to break in through a window, retrieving a hidden gun as he searched for her. However, he was met with a barrage of shotgun blasts as they engaged in a fierce shootout within the house, leaving destruction in their wake. Pinned down and desperate, John pulled on the gas lines, triggering a massive explosion that temporarily disoriented Jane. Once she was disarmed, they resorted to hand-to-hand combat, throwing each other around with brutal force, John determined to treat her as an equal in their conflict. The confrontation culminated in a standoff. John lowered his weapon, unable to pull the trigger. In that moment of clarity, they both recognized their deep love for one another and succumbed to their passions in a manner as intense as their earlier fight. That night, while Eddie was at home, he received an unsettling notification. A $400,000 bounty had been placed on both John and Jane's heads. The following morning found John and Jane attempting to prepare breakfast in their ravaged kitchen, smiles illuminating their faces as they reveled in their newfound happiness together. However, outside, a postal truck arrived, not with letters but with bullets. Smoke grenades were hurled into the house as laser beams began scanning for them, signaling that their troubles were far from over. As the ominous sound of footsteps echoed from upstairs, Jane and John hurriedly descended into the basement, their hearts racing as they grabbed their weapons. The tension in the air was palpable, and just as they prepared for what might come next, a bomb was dropped into the basement. With seconds to spare, they barely managed to escape before the entire house erupted in a fiery explosion, debris scattering in all directions. In the chaos, they dashed to their neighbor's car, adrenaline fueling their flight as they hit the road.
I have to tell you.
Acutely aware that hitmen were hot on their trail. Jane took the wheel, her grip steady and determined, while John readied his firearm, prepared to defend them. In the midst of the chaos, he confessed a startling truth: he had been married once before. The revelation hung heavy in the air, and Jane felt a surge of anger, almost collecting the bounty on his head. The hitmen attempted to shoot at them and board the car, but Jane's skillful driving kept them one step ahead. With deft maneuvers, she executed a series of driving stunts that allowed them to shake off the remaining pursuers. Eventually, they sought refuge with Eddie, who delivered grim news: both their companies were after them, and unless they could present a larger target to their employers, they were doomed. Amidst the tension, Jane received intel about a man known as the Tank and learned where he was being held. They decided to rescue him, hoping to leverage his information to deflect the heat from themselves. Jane took on the role of lookout while John prepared to break in. Stealthily, he infiltrated the room, dispatching the guards with lethal precision before liberating the Tank from his cell. Once they had him secured in their van, they retreated to a motel where they began to interrogate him about why their employers were targeting them. The Tank revealed that their marriage had been discovered and that he had been used as bait in a sinister game intended to pit them against each other. He also disclosed that a tracker had been placed on him. Just then, chaos erupted as helicopters surrounded the motel, and armed agents stormed in. When they burst into the room, they found only the Tank waiting for them. Meanwhile, Jane and John had managed to escape into the sewers. Jane urged John to run for safety, but he insisted that they needed to confront this threat once and for all. They made their way to a nearby mall and managed to break in just as armed men began scanning the area for them. Spotting a broken door, the intruders moved closer. In a stroke of cleverness, Jane and John changed into suits, preparing for a stealthy counterattack. With precision and agility, they began taking out the armed men silently. Jane seized a cart of knives and unleashed her deadly aim, eliminating the first wave of attackers. But soon they came under heavy gunfire as more men surrounded them. In the ensuing chaos, Jane was shot. John rushed to her side, but they were soon overwhelmed by bullets until they found refuge inside a small hut. There, they discovered body armor and quickly donned it before peeking outside to assess their dire situation. Armed men surrounded them. Resolute and ready for battle, they armed themselves and prepared to face their enemies together in a final stand. Bursting out of their hiding place, they unleashed a hail of gunfire while dodging incoming rocket fire. Fortunately for them, their adversaries lacked precision. After an intense and brutal fight, they emerged victorious, having wiped out all the attackers. Once the dust settled, Jane and John found themselves back in therapy, this time with a newfound strength in their marriage. Proudly, they announced that their love life was not only intact but flourishing once more. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.